Hello, my name is Alex Brock. My family history basically dates back all the way to Germany. My mother's side of the family is predominantly from Germany, and my dad's side of the family is predominantly through Germany. The difference is that my dad's family are part of the Volga Russians that moved to Russia during the reign of Catherine the Great, who promised them field to farm and work, and they did not have to worry about becoming a part of the Russian National Army at the time. So they packed up from Germany and moved to Russia during her reign. But when she passed and her reign ended, the next czar or czarina that took over changed that, and so they fled to America during the Great Migration um, period in the 1800s during America's history. And my father's relatives settled in central Kansas, predominantly around the Great Bend area, and my mother's settled in a town called Seward, Nebraska, just north of Kansas, and St. Louis. And one thing that my father always kind of mentioned when he talked about his family was that they brought, when they came over here from Russia, they fled over here, they brought with them a jar of red wheat to plant, which is, you know, makes sense because the breadbasket of America being Kansas, that makes sense with the wheat. Um, a major importance in my family's history and kind of the way we've been raised is that we are Lutheran. Lutheran is a denomination of the Christian faith, and more specifically, Missouri Synod Lutheran is what we are. But my mother's grandpa, her dad's dad, was a Lutheran pastor in St. Louis, and my father had a couple uncles and a couple grandparents that were also Lutheran pastors. So that's kind of a big part of our family is being Lutheran. My parents met while my mother was attending Concordia Seward Teachers College, which is a Lutheran ran college in Nebraska. And to this day, being a Lutheran is a very important part of me and my family's values and the way we live our life. Because kind of being where I grew up in the church that I went to, it was a family within a family, so it was awesome. For my family holidays, only two that really stick out for traditional wise, and it's we open our presents on Christmas Eve every year, and part of that's because we don't like to get up that early on Christmas morning, but we go to church service on Christmas Eve, and then after that we go to a friend's house and have like a Christmas Eve party, and all the parents would stay upstairs and hang out, and all the kids would go down to the basement, and they had an old NES system growing up as a kid because I'm older, and we would play Bubble Bobble on the NES, and I just as a kid I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. It's still the highlight of my Christmas. So, and then lastly, for basically food that we have every year for a holiday was Easter. My mom had a mold that made Jello Easter eggs, and we called them jigglers. And we'd have friends over, and we'd always take a picture of us with a big Jello egg in our mouth. All the kids would, so that's kind of a tradition with that. The roles within my family, I feel like my parents did a good job of making sure everything was viewed equally. No one person had more power than the other. I mean, I feel like mom kind of handled the day and the day things that might have happened with my older brother Andy and I. But whenever dad spoke, we listened. So it was always very equal. The only thing that might be split, I guess, was dad worked more with the manual labor outside. He was always taking care of the outside of the house, the yard, always outside on the weekends. And mom, not that she wasn't outside, but she more so did took kept the house clean, even though we always helped her clean the house, but she took care of the laundry and dishes and those sorts of things. We never had any kids in my family or relatives that had special needs. We've had plenty of friends that have had children with special needs, and we don't have any real family heirlooms that I can think of for my family. My dad works for the Royals now, so he got two rings for the 14 and 15 series runs that the Royals had. So I have a feeling that'll probably become an heirloom that we pass down for the future. But as of from their family, not anything that comes to mind. And besides our middle names, we don't really have any names that are continued on. We don't have any juniors or seconds or thirds in my family. I know that my brother's middle name Philip and my middle name Christian is from previous relatives, but that's not a consistently kept name. So that is my family origin stories for the family Brock. Thank you.